What's going on, 5 9 Gaming crew? Lethal One up here, and we're going to go and talk about some news in regards to Google Stadia. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest of news, but Google Stadia is shutting down its internal game studios. And we're on an IGN article that was written by Joseph Knopp, and we're going to go and kind of just pick apart pieces here to kind of talk about. But the big thing is, yeah, Google is going to go ahead and shut down its internal game studios that they had to help create games for the platform. And if that's happening, that's not a good sign for the future of Stadia. I think a lot of people were already kind of speculating. They're not sure how well Stadia would do going forward. I mean, I still deep down think that like what Stadia was trying to do is something that also just so happens Microsoft is doing. And since Microsoft is doing it, and we already know Microsoft, and people already have a relationship with Xbox, they already have Xbox Live Service and even Game Pass Ultimate. Like, people at this point, I think, already have a connection with that and just have a relationship with that and will trust them, will trust Microsoft for the games and just for the service in general. Google taking a stab at it, doing something kind of similar to what Microsoft is now doing too. I just kind of feel like that doesn't help but like have people not really want to just trust, Google Stadia and make Google Stadia their go-to for, their gaming comfort. I use Microsoft because they're the only ones that I currently have, to my knowledge, of another console, because PlayStation's got maybe stuff in the works. Who knows? There's rumors, but we know xCloud with Microsoft. We know they have some type of service that's allowing you to play their games on like mobile, on PC, on different types of tech and hardware. So I don't know, just it kind of sucks to kind of see Google Stadia have to go down this road, but let's just jump into this. I'm going to skip around a little bit here. So let's skip to this one right here. As first reported by Kotaku, it says Google will close its 2 Stadia games and entertainment studios located in Los Angeles and Montreal. The closure will impact approximately 150 employees, one source told Kotaku. Google says it will try to find new roles at the company for those impacted, which I guess that last bit there is something good, right? If they're planning on restructuring how they're going to do Stadia, who knows? But, closing down the actual games part of it, their internal games divisions at least, that's going to leave a lot of those, all those developers now have to find a new place to, kind of work. So it's, I guess, one part, half of that is like, that really sucks for those developers that, we're kind of excited to be jumping aboard, this Google Stadia train and to help develop some of these games for Google Stadia and let this become something bigger, It sucks because now they have to figure something out. But I guess, the other side of this coin, right, is that Google is going to also try to find places for these developers to kind of help out within Google itself. So to some people, that's a good thing, right? Again, it's like a half and half thing. It still sucks for developers, but it's nice to see that they're at least. It sucks for developers, but it's nice to see that Google is also going to go ahead and try to, do something to kind of make it so that, like, they still have work somewhere else that they can help out with Google at the moment. But for those that are just excited to, actually make some games underneath the name of Google, that kind of sucks. That's going to be an issue right there. We'll go down here to the next paragraph. With the recent successful launch of Cyberpunk 2077 on Stadia, which is true, I can attest to this because I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I believe there's even some guys in 5.9 who've tried out Cyberpunk on Stadia, and they said, hey, the game runs good. And if I'm not mistaken, I've seen a couple articles talk about Cyberpunk 2077 run on Stadia, and it actually did good from what I've heard. Again, not necessarily what I've seen or I've experienced myself, but I've heard. And I was going to say, also, Cyberpunk 2077 really had more so console issues. PC had its issues, but not as bad as consoles. So, again, it's just good to see that, like, hey, Stadia was able to kind of have that game run good. So that's like one kind of plus to Stadia's service, because a lot of people are still, when you think about like a streaming service for your gaming pleasure, a lot of that's kind of, it's kind of iffy because it's super reliant on needing to have a good internet connection. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why, the idea of like what Google Stadia was trying to go for, where, hey, you don't need a box, you don't need a console, kind of, you just need to, rely on our servers here and, you can stream your games, right? I think the idea is cool. It's super future proof. And I can say I've tried not Stadia, but I've tried, I think it was the NVIDIA GeForce. I tried their servers for like streaming games and whatnot. And I did it to my phone, and I will say it worked really well. And it was a really good experience. And I'm sure Stadia was not that far off because, again, a lot of people have said that they've had a good experience on Stadia. But that doesn't necessarily account for everybody, right? There's going to be some people who are just not going to have the kind of internet speeds to kind of have that kind of performance. And I think that's what kind of holds back, streaming video games and making that like a norm, is that I don't think the reliability of internet is at a place where you can go for something like this and be okay with it. Again, for some people, yeah, but for others, not yet. So I think that's definitely one of the issues about Stadia, and probably why maybe it's just not taking off. Again, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why it's not taking off, as well as other, other services and whatnot. But that's got to be a part of it, I would say. But let me go back and continue to some of this here. So they're using, the successful launch of Cyberpunk 2077 on Stadia to talk about the fact that, like, hey, it's possible. You can play some of these bigger games, on Stadia servers, and it runs good. And again, I've heard this from other people. I know, I know it. I know it can play like a game like Cyberpunk 2077 streamed, well. But let me see. Fast forwarding here a little bit here. It's clear that Stadia's technology has been proven and works at a scale. Google's vice president of Stadia and general manager Phil Harris has said in a statement, having games streamed to any screen is the future of the industry, and will continue to invest in Stadia and its underlying platform to provide the best cloud gaming experience for our partners and the gaming community. This has been the vision of Stadia since the beginning. Again, I've kind of already touched upon it, but I don't disagree. I think the idea to one day, just being able to just like, just for example, not that we're here yet, but like, we'll just say Halo, for example. The day that I can play Halo matches online with my phone, and not having to be home to play it, I can play it on the go, and it works seamlessly, and no issues. It just works good. That's a crazy day, because that's going to change like the portable gaming market, right? Like we're so used to like, mobile games, and all that. So like the idea that eventually something like that can be a norm, I think is the future. And I think it's possible. And again, I've tried it. I've had a taste of it. It works. Again, it's not perfect. It's not there just yet, but that idea that could become something soon, take my adventures of like God of War, right? And play it on the go eventually if or when PlayStation gets their own, to be able to do that's awesome. So again, I think it's the future. I just don't think we're there yet, but I think it's a good point that he makes. Clearly Stadia is not having that kind of success, but I mean, it's there. Jumping down here, Jade Raymond, the noted producer who helped bring Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed franchise to life, is also departing from her role as head of the game development at Google. Now, that's another issue here too, right? Because again, what would have helped Stadia really, shine some light on it, like have people kind of remember that, hey, Stadia is a competitor, it's out there, and it's gonna try to make its its own name, basically. Games, where were some of those games at that you need to say, yo, check out this new game, it looks really cool, but guess what? It's only on Stadia. That's the one thing that I think even a lot of the people who are fans of Stadia were like, there's nothing really out there yet, or not there's nothing out there. I know they've probably developed some games maybe, or maybe none at all, but that needed to be a thing, right? To really sell your platform or really sell Stadia service was like, hey, you can only get this game, but get it on here. But that didn't happen. I think that's what definitely held it back too. The lack of like, a game for just the Stadia service alone probably didn't help the fact that people could get Cyberpunk 2077 if they wanted to on Steam, or they can get it from GOG, or they can get it on the console. Like that's an issue, right? You can't just rely, I think, on third-party games, because their game is going to be available on a bunch of different platforms. So that in itself, I think, was an issue. So again, not that Jade is like a bad producer or anything. She, the Assassin's Creed, franchise is great. So I think it's unfortunate that they just couldn't figure something out for Stadia. I think that's just part of the issue, right? So hopefully, Jada will go and get, job somewhere else, or use her services for something else. Who knows? But it's another upsetting thing to see too, is that like, now Jade is also leaving, and who knows what she will do next. But again, it just comes back to, this is kind of why you can see where Stadia is going, the direction that's going, right? Or at least some ideas. Not that anything is concrete, but just some ideas. Jump down a little bit here. IGN talks about, what does this mean for Stadia subscribers? Google states that the players can still access their games on Stadia or the $10 a month Stadia Pro, and that third-party games will continue to release on the service. It's unclear how many third-party games Google plans on hosting on Stadia. So I think that's, again, it comes back to what I just said, right? Now you have to think that, okay, if they're taking away some of their internal, studios, right? That means they're going to be super reliant on third parties, and that's going to also go up to third-party developers too, right? I mean, not every third-party developer is dropping a game on Stadia, right? Honestly, the only one I could think of like for a big game was like Cyberpunk as of recent. But I mean, who knows like who else is going to want to drop their game for Stadia and want to make sure that the game can work on there. So that could hurt them too, having to be so reliant on third party. The fact that it's available is great, but doesn't mean that these guys are gonna, these developers or publishers are gonna say, let's also make sure the game can run for Stadia. Once they see this, I don't know if that's going to be the case. They might not even want to bother anymore. Maybe they see Stadia go in a direction where maybe it might just be like a sinking ship at this point, and they're trying to hold it up. But that's going to be the issue, right? That's part of the issue. Let's drop down here a little bit more too. So it says a key pillar of Google's new strategy is offering up Stadia's game streaming technology to other interested companies. Google's head of Stadia operations, Phil Harrison, will lead that initiative. So basically, I think what they want to do is they still want to try to sell like the Stadia platform, the service, right? Maybe, for example, PlayStation will buy, again, PlayStation's already rumored to, I think, be working with Microsoft. I think it's on the Azure, I think it's called. There's already some rumors that PlayStation's already working on their form of cloud gaming service or something in that hemisphere or whatever. So it's up to, I think what Google wants to do is try to sell Stadia to another platform to use like their technology and use their service or whatnot. I don't know how that would go. Maybe somebody will buy it and someone will acquire it. Again, I've heard that the actual service itself, it's good. It works. Again, it's just, it's the popularity is just really not there. People are going to choose, for example, I just keep using like Microsoft's xCloud because that's the only other top of the head competitor I can think of. I couldn't even tell you about Amazon's Luna service because I don't even know what's going on with that one. I haven't heard much about that one, but I do believe I just saw something recently that like Luna might not be doing as great either. The whole Amazon gaming division, it might not be doing the greatest. So it's going to hurt because, again, people are so well established with like Microsoft, with PlayStation and any other ones that they use. So there's going to be some issues with that. So I think that's their way of trying to maybe save it too, is see if they can get bought or if they can sell it to somebody else to kind of use it. And again, don't get me wrong, I've heard that the Stadia service works good. So it's not like it's bad. It's just, unfortunately, they didn't do much underneath Google's umbrella to, make the games to kind of sell off the service more and make people more wanting to get it. So the idea now is, hey, maybe we can offer it up to have another company interested to take it and to use it. So that seems like the gist of what this is trying to say here. Again, it just goes on to talk about how, what's it called? The service itself had some technical issues. It didn't help that there weren't that many games to kind of really showboat it and make people want to like kind of use it and whatnot. They used Cyberpunk 2077 as like, hey, it is reliable. It does kind of work. But again, that's just like one of whatever other third party out there that wants to put the game on there. But again, I think, unfortunately, people are going to have this issue too, right? Where this is pretty much the end of the article here, but people are going to have that issue too, where they're going to think like, if I buy my games on Stadia and Stadia is at the point where it's like, it looks like it's sinking, it's going down, right? It's trying to figure something like last minute thing to kind of save it a bit here. But if you buy your games on here, people are also saying, what's going to happen if it completely shuts down? Then I just bought a bunch of my games on the Stadia service, but now the service is no longer a thing. Then you lose access to those games. And I think those are some issues people are having too, where it's like, if I see it going down, why continue to invest at that point? Because then what if I lose access to all these games? Because, God forbid something were to happen to like PlayStation and they close down completely, I lost access to all those, all those games that I purchased and I own. So that's an issue right now too with Stadia, on top of everything else that seems to be happening here. But I think there's one little piece here that I wanted to pick out here. I think it's this last part right here. It says, despite Google's seemingly immense influence on the world of technology, the company appeared to lack the resources or ship any major game. One source familiar with Stadia's first-party work told Kotaku, Google was a terrible place to make games. Imagine Amazon, but under-resourced. I'm going to leave it here for you guys. And you guys go ahead and dissect that. You dissect that for me over here for 5-9, and you let us know in the comment section your thoughts with that, and just give us your overall thoughts on everything here. Did you get Google Stadia? I'm so curious. Did anybody here actually get Google Stadia? Did anybody here really hoping for, Google Stadia to do really good? Like, give me your overall thoughts about it. Do you think it's at the point where it's just gonna sink? It's gonna go down under. It's gonna close out. Do you think they'll get bought? Do you think the service will go somewhere else? Give me your overall thoughts about this. Let me know what you think about it. And I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys haven't already. Make sure you're following 5-9 on their Twitch. twitch.tv/59gaming1. Follow us on Twitter. Our links are down below in the description, but don't forget to give me your thoughts on this article and this news of Stadia. I'm Lethal1Up, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Lethal out.